Trust is often spoken of as if it lives inside a leader, a personal virtue, a reputation earned, a set of characteristics that inspire confidence. As a matter of fact, it is often misunderstood as such. But in practice, trust rarely grows from personality. It grows from the environment. It grows from the accumulated patterns that tell people what is safe, what is possible, and how truth will be handled. It grows from the conditions leaders create long before trust is ever tested. When trust is understood as an environmental reality rather than a personality trait, the conversation shifts. The focus moves away from the leader's charisma or competence and toward the structures that shape how people experience one another. This is where the ecology of trust begins. It is the quiet space where tone, rhythm, clarity, and relational maintenance converge to create an atmosphere in which people can bring their full selves to the work without fear of being diminished for it. Trust grows in environments where people feel seen. Not praised or spotlighted, but genuinely noticed. A leader who pays attention to small things creates an ecological signal. The careful follow-up after a tense meeting, the thoughtful naming of unspoken concerns, the willingness to slow down a process because someone needs more clarity. These gestures accumulate. They tell the team that their presence matters and that the leader's attention is not reserved only for moments of crisis. Trust grows where honesty has room to breathe. Not forced honesty, not contrived vulnerability. The kind of honesty that arises when people believe that the environment can hold it. When they trust that disagreement will not cost them standing. When they sense that complexity is allowed and that the leaders do not need reality to be tidier than it actually is. Environments like these make truth possible. They remove the pressure to perform certainty. They invite people to share what they actually see rather than what they believe the leader wants to hear. But even as trust grows, it remains fragile. It erodes quietly, rarely through dramatic breaches and most often through subtle signals that something has shifted. A leader who becomes slightly more defensive, a pattern of delayed communication, decisions made without context that once accompanied them. People do not lose trust all at once. They lose it in increments. A missed acknowledgement here, a dismissive tone there. The gradual sense that the environment is no longer as open as it once was. Trust is ecological. It sounds like a reach to describe it as such. But if you think about it, the strength of trust depends on the health of the whole environment, not the intention of one person. A leader may be consistent, but if the team's internal culture becomes competitive or fearful, trust will thin. A leader may be clear, but if the processes constantly shift without explanation, trust will weaken. Leaders cannot build trust through personality if the surrounding conditions contradict the signals they're trying to send. In healthy ecologies, trust rests on predictability, not perfection. People know how the leader responds when things go well and when they go poorly, and when uncertainty shapes the horizon. They know that questions will be welcomed, that dissent will be held with respect, and that mistakes will not be turned into spectacles. Predictability gives trust somewhere to root. It allows people to move without the constant fear of misinterpretation. Trust also grows where the leader's interior life is tended. A leader who is overwhelmed or exhausted often communicates more through tone than through words. Even without meaning to, they can create turbulence in the environment. Sharpness dims trust. Withdrawal thins it. Leaders who do not maintain their own interior ecology often find themselves presiding over environments where trust is inconsistent, not because anyone intended to erode it, but because the atmosphere subtly shifted. In many ways, trust is the cumulative outcome of the other infrastructures outside of the environment of the team. It grows from rhythm, because rhythm creates stability. It grows from decision architecture, because clarity reduces fear. It grows from invisible maintenance, because repair prevents small fractures from evolving into divides. Trust is not an isolated phenomenon. It is the expression of all the unseen structures that make leadership sustainable. What makes trust powerful is not that it guarantees agreement. It's that it makes alignment possible. A team that trusts its environment can move together even in uncertainty. They do not need constant reassurance because the ecology itself is steady enough to hold them. They do not shrink back when the challenges arise because they believe they will not be abandoned in the tension. Trust is not something that leaders possess. It must be said again because we are all too quick to trust based on arbitrary external attributes. In truth, trust that is earned when facades fall away is something that is cultivated, something that serious leaders learn to cultivate. It's the atmosphere they tend, the patterns they reinforce, the signals they send through the smallest of their actions. When the ecology is healthy, trust becomes almost unremarkable, woven into the daily fabric of the work, because when the ecology falters, trust reveals just how much it held together. Leaders who understand trust as environmental take on a different posture. They focus less on proving themselves and more on tending the conditions that allow others to flourish. They know that trust grows slowly, erodes quietly, and is restored through steady, careful attention. And they recognize that this ecology of trust is not a supplement to leadership, but one of its deepest infrastructures.